Hi, in this video I'll be painting Flesh Eater Courts. So here are some of the models that I'll be painting. I actually brought the box set that just came out, the army box set, and I have a few old miniatures too, so I thought I'd just paint them all at the same time to save time. I said time twice. So I used this purple from AK, and I used this as a base color for all the ghouls. So I didn't glue the riders onto the bats, just to make it easier, because for this I really want to save time and really cut corners. So I'd say this army is not going to be my competition level paint job, but it's a good starting point. It'll get them on the table, and I can always come back to the models and touch them up and tidy them in areas where I've messed up. So first off, I use, after the purple, I use grey brown, also from AK, and I spray this as a zenithal on top of the miniature. For this, you can be a bit creative. You don't need to be too precise, or just make sure you leave some purple showing from below. And if you don't have an airbrush, which is fine, you could use a dry brush. To be honest, I used to use dry brush all the time before I bought my airbrush, and I would do this very thing when I'm painting different skin tones or gradients and so on. In this video I'll be showing you the same process again on different models from the set. Here's decomposed flesh. Again, this is another zenithal highlight. I'm being a bit more sparing with this one. This is kind of where the light would be really touching the skin, but at the same time I'm kind of making it up. So I'm just trying to spray areas that might cause interest and make the model look interesting, like for example pick out some of the knees or his butt or maybe the little wing under his armpits, and especially his head as well. But I'm still paying attention to keep that purple showing and that previous brown color. So here we go, that's how it looks. The final highlight is luminous flesh. It looks really pale when you first spray it on, but it does tend to die down the intensity of the color, so don't worry about that. I'm using this model here as an example too, because it's such an interesting model to airbrush or even dry brush if you're going to be dry brushing. This is how it looks. So this is basically finished now. Now I want to add some shading on it and fill in some of the recesses. So I'm using Druchii Violet and Lamium Medium. I'm using more Lamium on this one because I really want to thin it down, and it's just going into the recesses, and what it does, it adds a nice shade or tinge to the skin, and also brings out some of the details. And what I've also done, I've used different shades from the Games Workshop Citadel range, and I've experimented with Lamium Medium and doing the same thing. So this is how it looks. I think it looks pretty cool. Sorry about the dirty pots called a green shade. This is a very vibrant type of green, so I went for this one. And so I have two of these guys, the Arch Regent. I heard they're pretty good in the game, so why not have two? They look exactly the same, which kind of sucks. So one's going to be green, and then one's going to be purpley pink color, just so when I'm playing it's easier for my opponent to know. And this is how it looks. So I really like this one too. So now Griff Charger Grey. This is going to go over all the stone parts of the models. So in this army, some of the bats are standing on stones. Some of the bigger guys, what are they called? I forgot what they're called now. They're holding tombstones. I'm using Garrick sewer for the mud, for the dirt areas. So that's how it looks. Skeleton horde now for the big centerpiece model, should we say. So because it's been zenithal already with white, with black and then white, it's easy to use contrast paint over it. And now I dry brush quite gently, actually. There's not too much paint on the brush, all over the bone, and I just want to have a nice coat over it and hide that kind of black and white zenithal spray, because the skeleton horde isn't that strong, I feel anyway, or maybe I had too much black showing. So I'm just going over all the areas now that will be bone, and also the areas that won't be bone, because later on we'll use contrast over that, kind of like slap chop. I'm also dry brushing the stones and the ground as well, I'll be doing it again later in the video, but you may as well do it now for this mini. Now I'm using Wraithbone for the final highlight, and you can see here it's lightening the areas, it's picking them out. And for these parts here, the membrane, I think it's called, right? Or the fingers, the membrane's in the middle, right? Yeah. I'm kind of just sliding the brush along them, and it's just kind of edge highlighting them. So it's a mixture of dry brushing and using the brush to edge highlight. So I love this paint so much when it comes to painting red areas. I used to use Flesh Tearers red, but now I use Sigvald burgundy. It's just a really nice, interesting color, bit of purple in it, not too red. It's a really nice base color. So I add this over all the muscles, the areas that may have blood, the wings and so on. It's quite useful as well because contrast flows so well. So this was not really hard to paint, and I didn't make too many mistakes. And this is actually fully assembled, so it wasn't really tricky. It just took time, and I needed to be careful, especially on the bones and the wings. But I guess if you make some mistakes, it's fine, right? Because it's like a reanimated animal that's got blood and guts everywhere. So I use snake bite leather a lot for the fur over the whole army. You're welcome to use different colored contrast paints, again like Griff Charger or some kind of grey or wildwood, but I felt this was quite a nice bright color that really helps make the model pop a bit, separates different parts of it. So that's how it looks, and I'm kind of liking it. I also used it on the dragon as well. So Black Legion contrast paint. So anything that's got black fur, like the bats and the dragon, I just paint over all these now, just to get them out of the way. And to be honest, after this, it's actually tabletop. You could actually play it now, but I want to go one step further. So Mechanicus Standard Grey, very nice dark grey. Any dark grey is fine. And I just spray this over like a zenithal again. I haven't based it yet. You see, it's still white and so on. So I'll quickly paint that. Sorry, blurry cam. I also spray the rocks as well with Mechanicus. I use Fenrisian Grey as a dry brush now, and I just go over all of the bat fur, the rocks, and just anywhere really where I've painted black. So this is how it looks. So I use Wraithbone now to paint the bones, exactly. If you guessed that, you get a gold medal. So not only the bats, but you know, the teeth of all the models, the ornaments, even dead bodies on the bases, and the ropes that are strapping the bodies to the rock. And now I go back to snakebite leather, and I just go over the fur, the mane. Should be the mane, right? The bat mane. Because this is a bit like slap chop now, because I've highlighted it with the light greys and so on. When I add this light brown over it, it means I don't really need to add the edge highlight. So this is a way of saving time, and I think it's a nice color. It's not too strong, not too dark, not too bright. So I'm pretty happy with it. I also used it over the like anywhere really. Like this is like leathery skin, you know, that on his tabard. So you can use it wherever you want. So now I go back to the wings and the muscly areas that are exposed muscles. Sorry, and I just spray inside the wing. If I'm saying it. If you're just going to dry brush this, you could paint inside the wing first, and then you can dry brush around the sides of it, so it kind of has a gradient. It's possible. I've done it with my old zombie dragon before I had an airbrush. Here I made a mistake, but then I thought, hang on, this looks pretty cool. So I started airbrushing the hands and the feet and the mouth and the cuts and scars, not only on this Ghoul King, but actually over the whole army. And when I did this, it actually felt like, wow, like the army looked more interesting. Like you'll see here, like I was happy with this what's it called, Vargulf. But when I started spraying this, sorry about the blurry cam, when I started adding these, you know, blood-soaked feet and hands and areas where there's like blood splattered or some inflammation, it just really looked cool, I felt, and I was really happy with it. And I wasn't really bothered how messy I was, because it kind of added to the carnage. So here I'm doing it on this guy here. I want to show you how it looks on a green model. Yeah, so I think it's great. Again, you can just water down Screamer Pink, and then paint it on the hands and feet and treat it as like a little glaze. You can also dry brush it as well with a small dry brush, and just be careful with it, it'll take a bit longer. Of course, an airbrush saves so much time, and yeah, do what you will. This is how they look as well, the big guys. I use Plague Bearer's flesh for like dead bodies or, you know, limbs that are scattered around. Snakebite leather now, I use this for the ropes. Again, I'm not being too creative in terms of, you know, the edge highlighting and the colors. I'm just going for simple colors, and the main focus is getting this army on the table and looking pretty decent at the same time. So I use Bugman's Glow for the fleshy robes and capes, just to add a bit of contrast and to, you know, warm the model up a bit. Because I feel if the ghoul's flesh is quite pale, then here I use Rakar flesh. Now I'm going over the Rakar flesh with Bugman's, because I think it's just a nice warm color to add to the model. Even the bat ears. This was weirdly satisfying to do. I don't know why. I use this gold a lot, Necro Gold. It's really good, from scale 75. I just covered, I went over all the helmets and the sword handles, the hilts, and anywhere I wanted to really. And then for the silvers as well, I did the same thing. Now I'm back to the Wraith Bone again. I use this paint a lot. I'm just touching up all the bones that are piercing their flesh. and also there, you know, anywhere that needs some tidying up as well. This is when I would use it. I had some on my brush, so I just went over the leather clothes and stuff as well. Oh yeah, I use wildwood as well over the pelts on the body. All the ghouls have the same type of clothing, so I just use what's it called, Garrick sewers or wildwood, just to paint them brown. And then when I dry brushed the Wraithbone over them, they kind of, you know, looked fine. I gave it a very watered down wash of snakebite leather as well over the rock, just to add some interest. Now I'm dry brushing the skin very lightly with Wraithbone, and just to bring out some of the details and to tidy it up, and I'm pretty happy with it. This one's more or less done. Also over the black areas, just to make them look a bit more sharper. So now I use Agrax to go over all the bone areas, and the metal areas too, the flesh, the bugmans. And now I'm using the spray again on the bats, the screaming pink, and I'm just spraying. For this part, I just sprayed where the bones are coming out of the arms first, like make it quite thick, and then as it moves up, I missed it. I dropped him, and then I moved the airbrush a bit further away and press a bit more gently. And I also spray in the mouth and also areas where there are cuts and scratches on the bat, so it kind of looks more interesting, I feel. I really liked the way this unit turned out. It was quite unexpected, quite last minute as well, but yeah, it was I wouldn't say it was a happy accident, but it wasn't intentional, and I'm quite happy I did it. Please let me know in the comments if you like this, if you think it's cool. Yeah, and maybe you could share some of your ideas too of how you painted the bat's skin, the fur. I'd like to hear more so I can test it out as well. I love using rust texture from Vallejo. It's kind of like Typhus Corrosion from Citadel. It's got like lumps in it, like rust, and this is really good if maybe you wanted to add like orange and dry brush over it to have like really rusty. It's just a great paint for the rusty blades. And I use Rakelin now over the bugmans and the face, and just areas that may be lacking some detail, or I want to just experiment and just add some interesting shadows in places. So this is how it looks. Oh, I also went over the leather, as you can see as well. Just experiment. You might end up with a nice color scheme after it dries. It's always fun to try out new colors, and painting over different colors and seeing how it dries, and what does it look like afterwards. This was quite satisfying in a weird way. I just used a Rakelin flesh shade on the membranes, and I really like it. It's the life's simple pleasures, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, now I go back to the black and I paint the claws and anywhere else I've missed. Wraithbone again. I've used this paint so much this video. I just pick out the teeth again on areas I've missed. especially on these guys, and also on the ghouls weapons. This was quite boring because there were 20 of them. And I also paint their mouths. I actually covered the whole mouth the white, and then I use Agrax, and I just put it on thick in the mouth and over the bandages, and then I dab it if it's too much, and then it just ties it all together. And I just think it turned out pretty well, especially for like a tabletop paint scheme, you know. Just want to get it quick, and these can really cut corners and save time. So I used these two for the basing. I wanted a snowy base with some vegetation, and they're pretty simple. You can choose whatever you want. I chose snow because I feel like it makes it pop a bit and adds a bit of interest to the base and makes the model stand out. So I hope you like it, and here are all the models in their glory. Thank you.